we're gonna get back to some 2024 cannabis legalization initiatives. Some of the notable longtime MJ nonprofits are absent from these legalization initiatives. Regulated marijuana is a reality in more than half the country, and federal cannabis reform efforts have advanced further than ever in D.C., thanks in large part to ballot initiative campaigns largely funded, organized, and run by nonprofit advocacy groups. But this year, familiar outfits such as the Drug Policy Alliance, DPA, the Marijuana Policy Project, MPP, and New Approach are conspicuously absent from the adult use marijuana legalization campaigns in Florida and North Dakota, according to public records and reporting by MJ Biz Daily. In their place are marijuana industry-funded campaigns that, according to some critics, benefit state-regulated operators at the expense of free access goals long held by cannabis legalization advocates. The situation on display in Florida and North Dakota are the latest examples of a long-term developments that's seeing the responsibility for marijuana reform shift to the cannabis companies that would benefit most directly from legalization and away from philanthropic donors, many of whom have moved on to other interests such as psychedelics. It's also a consequence of the fundraising woes many longtime legalization organizations are suffering. In a twist, marijuana advocates' successful legalization campaigns are partly to blame for tightening purse strings. Continued wins have diminished the sense of urgency cannabis champions felt a decade ago, even as the plant remains federally prohibited in populous states such as Texas and, of course, under federal law. Longtime advocacy group MPP was chiefly responsible for Colorado's Amendment 64 campaign in 2012. The nonprofit group contributed staff time worth more than $70,000 to North Dakota's failed adult use legalization campaign in 22, as well as $175,000 in funding the successful 2023 recreational effort in Ohio. New Approach Advocacy Fund was the single largest donor to the 2022 North Dakota effort, contributing nearly $340,000. More than half of the roughly $616,000 total. Neither MPP nor New Approach has contributed to the 2024 efforts in Florida or North Dakota. That's partially because, at least in MPP's case, the organization has less money to offer than it's had in recent years, said Brian Vicente, the Denver-based founding partner of Vicente Law Firm and MPP's current board chair. MPP recently ended its lobbying efforts in D.C., as public disclosures show. The group is also on the lookout for a new full-time executive director after talks of a possible merger with Normal ended this spring. The most recent nonprofit disclosure forms from 2022 show MPP operating in the red. The outlook has since improved, according to Vicente, but not to an extent that the donor-funded group can compete with marijuana multi-state operators for dollars. If you look at Florida, where the current campaign has raised nearly $83 million, that's not something a philanthropist or a nonprofit could cover, Vicente said. The torch has been passed, but nonprofits are still relevant, he added. The relevance includes campaign experience as well as credibility with voters. Resources the two major legalization efforts at play this year are leaving untapped, at least so far. So you can go through and read more specifics about money and efforts being contributed to North Dakota's Measure 5 and Florida's Amendment 3. And shout out to MJ Biz Daily for this reporting, as Chris Roberts originally broke the story. I think this is interesting. I don't think for people that have been around this advocacy space for a while, and particularly for me and Jenny as well, because she was in Colorado, like we know, like Vicente, MPP, we know these names very well because we've been around them for a long time. And as far as MPP specifically, when Rob Campia stepped down and there was a leadership change and they just started going through a lot of changes, I think a lot of people knew that their reputation and their ability to raise capital was largely tied to him specifically. So there were questions about how well that group would continue to be able to operate after he stepped down. So I mean, I don't see this as that's surprising. We've seen a compression of the supply chain for cannabis businesses who are the members of these organizations. So when they have less money to play with, they have less money to donate to these advocacy groups who then can't push as much legalization efforts in new states. So it's kind of a cycle. And now we have the industry, just as other industries do, taking on the onus of drafting and funding and staffing these campaigns. But yeah, this is Sohum with High at 9 News. Let's kick it back to the team and hear what everyone else has to say on this. What do you guys think? No more MPP-backed initiatives?
Guess who threw her hat in the ring for the new director position at MPP?
Who, you?
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
Yeah. I'm very, very familiar with it, and I think we'll see. We'll see if I hear back. I think that MPP's done a lot of good work in the past. I think I haven't always agreed with the exact direction of their initiatives, and I know that unfortunately they are operating in the red, and that does suck. But I think that there's still a way to get behind, even if it's just in making statements and putting your name behind it. If you can't fund it, you can still use your pull to support it in ways. Use lobbying efforts. People that you already have paid to be there. So we'll see, and we'll see if I get a call back.
This is the
Hope
thing.
you do.
This is the thing. The MPP's main focus was trying to get state ballot initiatives on different ballots, and there's not a whole bunch of states left to have initiatives on.
There are plenty.
So they have to. No, there's
there
not.
are plenty.
There's not.
Until we're
there's
done, until we're done, Jason.
There's not a lot. There's
until
not a
we're
lot.
done, Jason.
There's not a lot. There's not a lot.
There's plenty of work to be done, Jason. In
there's
the
like
words
seven
of
states,
your least favorite.
Like 7 states left that can.
In the words of your
voter initiative.
We just had ballot initiatives in Hawaii this year. We just saw their Congress members pushing for legalization and pushing for adult use in Hawaii. That's still not done. Jason, there's still plenty of work to be done. Just because it started or there's been a failed initiative, that doesn't mean that it's time to dust our hands off and say, fuck those 7 states. There are children, there are families, there are people in those states. I don't care how many are left that still need access. That still need access. You're saying there's not a lot of work left to be done, but that work is still important work.
There's not.
But it's still important work.
I didn't say it wasn't important. You're throwing words into that I'm not saying into the whole equation. There
are not many ballot initiatives left, so should we not focus on those?
I'm just saying.
Yes or no question. Yes or no question.
They don't need to raise as much money if there's only 7 states to work with. Is my point. Before
the real debate was on today, not last night, y'all.
Before there was 45 to work with in the beginning.
Hey,
so monetarily, that doesn't.
45's in the past. We're moving forward. Speaking of, here's what it is, man. Like a lot of these organizations, and especially like the nonprofits, they should have had their due earlier, and Congress jerked them around, and there's not a lot of money to support them like there was in the past. You know what I'm saying? Like all these cannabis businesses. Yeah, all these cannabis businesses, they're suffering too. So how are you going to put up money like you used to? 215 money ain't here no more.
Exactly.
You know and you see who's funding Amendment 3, right? It's the big MSOs, because they're the ones that are profitable from operating in limited license states. And limited license legislation is not what MPP ever pushed. They always wanted to protect home grow. They wanted to have a free licensing structure. I'm not saying that every bill that they've supported has been the perfect structure, but those were core principles of the legislation that they pushed. And now that you see that they're less involved, you see how it ends up, how these laws that are being crafted and backed by MSOs are, and they're meant to benefit one group of people, and that's large, well-capitalized organizations.
Right, like my only hope, like unfortunately, because I'm against like big corporations and shit, is that some of these larger, mainstream organizations, they snap them up and do put some money behind them. Say what you will. Like I kept things neutral. I kept things positive during my story earlier. But the reason why we're still talking about Last Prisoner Project is because the people behind it, I will not name no names because I don't want to give them the people behind it put a bunch of money out and got recognition for that. I know like lots and lots and lots of people were doing what they do long before. Lots of people's ideas were the same ideas before they did, but they had the money to do it. And now they got people backing them on a bigger stage. So hopefully they get the funding. Good luck on your run to take over, Jenny Beth. And I don't know what we could do other than not pay taxes.
I mean, 100%, but like part of paying taxes is, right, you could either be taxed for it as individuals, right? You can either be taxed for it, or you can do these things called tax deductible donations, right? And that's going to be going to 501c3s, 501c4s, stuff like that. And that's how you, when I say vote with your dollars, that's how you vote with your dollars. You find these initiatives, you find these groups that are, wow, you're really bad at it today.
I thought it was.
Can we do that thing like they did last night where they mute Jason's mic until it's his turn to respond?
Not happening.
Millie, can we get that in studio?
Zero.
No, I mean, that's when I say voting with your dollars, that's what I mean. It's, you can put your money behind these groups and these initiatives that you believe in, and you write those things off on your tax returns, which lowers your tax liability, because the government will either take it from you and spend it as they see fit, or you can spend as much of it as you want to in ways that you see fit. So if you care about people having access, if you care about these initiatives, then maybe look at how you can support some of these groups.
Well, as far as voting with dollars, there's not a lot of votes out there for people to cast, because there's not a lot of money in this economy.